You've probably noticed some guys from your childhood and from your hometown who used to be a bit of a loser, but now they're absolutely crushing it. And you're wondering, how the fuck did this dude beat me? How is this guy ahead of me? Well, in this video, I'm going to be explaining why that is and exactly what you can do to get ahead. Hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Christian. I've been helping young men overcome their bad habits for the past 3 or so years now. Before that, I was able to conquer my own bad habits, such as now being over 1,000 days porn-free. And I make these videos because I enjoy it. Now, it can be absolutely mind-boggling when you just see someone who should not be winning, start doing better than you, and start doing better than people they just should not be being better at. Now, one of the main reasons why this is the case, and also a way in which you can get ahead even if you still feel like a loser, and this is also how you can get ahead on how to even beat someone who you think, naturally, this person should absolutely dominate me in this area of life, but because I just naturally suck at it, and you can get ahead. You can beat absolutely anyone at anything if you understand this one principle. A strong person in a weak environment will lose to a weak person in a strong environment. So another way to say this is a loser in a winning team will beat you and will outrun you over time. So if you were to trap two people, and person one is just a natural born winner, and they're just not really in a team, or they're in a losing team, they're in a team of a bunch of losers. You have person two, who is a bit of a loser, but they're in a winning team, they're in a winning environment. If you track these people over years, maybe 5 years, 3 years, person two is going to outrun and outpace person one. They're going to be further along. So let's go deep into this analogy. So let's say we have two football teams. And whether you want to visualize this as soccer or American football or rugby or Australian football is up to you. Team A, and we have team, and we also have two players. We have a below average player. So let's say a below average player, BAP, and then we also have an above average player. If you've played sport before, even if it's basketball or whatever, I want you to just picture that one bloke. Maybe it's you, but that one dude who's below average, who's maybe in the bottom 5 of the team, which used to be me, fun fact, but maybe his name's Jack, or maybe his name's Trevor, because usually they have a weird name. But picture this below average dude, just picture him, and then picture the above average dude. So one of the dudes who's more at the top, who everyone probably thinks is going to be drafted or get picked up by the state league or something like that. So picture these two people. I'm just gonna think of two names. Let's just say we've got Trevor and we got Jack. And Trevor joins Team A and Jack joins Team B. And let's say Team B has a bad culture. They have a bad football culture where they have this thing called, you can say they have like tall poppy syndrome, which is a big thing here in like Australia and the UK. But they have this thing called tall poppy syndrome where you don't want to be a tryhard. You don't want to, where anyone who tries too hard is like shut down. So they have this tall poppy mentality where it's like, don't try too hard, man. Like, don't be a show off. Don't do this. Just stay within your lane, all this stuff. So no one's really encouraged to achieve and to win and all these things. It's just the team just wants to win, but not one person is allowed to stand up. So they have this tall poppy mentality. Maybe there's a big drug culture at this club. Afterwards they all get on the beers and the bags, they go out. Maybe you play on a Saturday morning and the whole team's out Friday night at the pub or at the club. And then after the game, they stick around until 5, 6 p.m, all getting smashed or all drinking. And then afterwards they go out and it's a complete write-off. And then Monday morning they come around and training shit because everyone's on the come down. No one really has the energy. No one really cares about nutrition. No one really cares about fitness. They all just do. Basically, most of them might just play this sport because maybe it's a bit social. They just get to hang out with the boys and do beers and bags and all these things and whatever. So they have a shit culture. Maybe the coach is an arsehole. Maybe where they play, it's in a rough area. Their ground's in a rough area. The change rooms are shit. So that they have a really bad culture where no one's really allowed to stand out and they don't really take their football seriously. They're just there mainly to stay fit or whatever, but they don't really stay fit because they all just eat shit. After the game, they all go down to the local McDonald's or something like that and get a Zinger box, or KFC and get a Zinger box. You've got Team B, which you could say is a weak environment. And you have Jack, a strong person in this weak environment. And let's contrast that. Let's say we have another team. This other team is very high energy. They have a strong culture where it's like no one left behind. And they have this mentality that they want every player in the team, from player number 1 to player number 25, or their bottom 5 players. They want their bottom 5 players to be really good players, to be able to level up to the point where they can be relied on and they're not just making up the numbers. They have this mentality that no one makes up the numbers and no one is left behind. Everyone gets improved. Now, obviously, some players are going to always be much better than others, but they make sure that even their bottom players are huge contributors and they can play their role and all these things. And this is their mentality. This is like one of their values. This team has values. They have values of improvement and progress and courage and all these things where no one's left behind. And then in Team A, the captain of this team is a real captain. He encourages people. He lifts people up. He checks in on those bottom 5 players and lifts them up and all these things. Whereas the captain on Team B is a bit of an egotist. He's a bit arrogant. He's a bit of a dick. He's a bit of a prick. Him being captain is like this power trip, and he puts people down. And he puts these bottom 5 players down in Team B. But in Team A, the captain's a real captain. And why is this captain a really good captain? Because the coach is a great coach. This coach has installed these values of all in, no one left behind. So they have this real captain. They have this real coach. They have this mentality of pushing everyone up. And they're really big on like second efforts. Don't give up. Keep going. If you fail, who cares? Keep going. Get better. Improve. You drop the ball, keep going. Second efforts, all this stuff. They have these mentalities and they have these values installed into the team. And let's say Team A even has a really strong preseason. It's a really tough preseason. Maybe the whole team goes away into the country or something. They wake up at 5 a.m. every day. They have 2-kilometer runs or 5-kilometer runs every day. It's in the summer. It's very hot. And have this really strong preseason. And Team B, they just don't even have a preseason. They just all rock up in March or April or whatever. And basically, whoever's the best just gets in the team. And whoever's not as good is just like on the bench all the time. Whereas this team, you still have to show up. You still have to prove yourself. And still the best players get on the team and the worst players are on the bench. But even the players on the bench, they're encouraged and they're lifted up to a point where eventually they get on the team. And eventually it's a very competitive environment in a good way where everyone's competing in a healthy way to get on the team, because everyone can, because even these bottom 5 players have been gotten into a position where now they're able or they're applicable to get on the team because they're that good. So you have these 2 players, Trevor and Jack, being injected into different teams, into different environments, 2 completely different starting points. By the end of an entire season, by the end of just 1 year, or even by the end of just one preseason or half a year, you're getting into finals, you get into that later half of the year, 2 different players will come out as a result of these 2 teams. Jack, who might have started up here, will probably become unmotivated. Like, he's not allowed to shine, so he's not going to shine. He's probably going to have no choice, but if he wants to be part of the team, he has to be part of this culture. He has to be part of this culture. And maybe Jack is a natural born leader, but he's not allowed to lead because there's this egotist coach or this egotist captain. So Jack's going to start up here and he's going to be naturally talented, but over the course of 6 months, he's going to become a shit player. Or he's not going to become a shit player, but he's not going to shine in the way that he's going to, and he's just not going to perform. But you have this person, Trevor, who started the start of the season, who he couldn't catch the ball or he couldn't kick the ball. He was a bit unco. Didn't really fit into any team he played for in the past. He got injected into this team. He started down here, being a bit of a shocking player. But now the coaches or the captain or someone's really invested into them. Maybe they even have a buddy system where a really good player for 10 minutes before training gets paired with a lower tier player in a position. So maybe all the good defenders get paired with the better defenders and they all work together to increase the bad defenders. So maybe Trevor wants to be a defender and he gets paired with the best defender and he starts learning of this best defender, because for 10 minutes every training, before training, and every player gets there 15 minutes before training or half an hour before training. And in that half an hour before the coach rocks up and there's actual training, they're all working together and improving on each other. And then Trevor's going to start down here, but at the end of the year, he's going to be up here. And then when Team A versus Team B, not only is Team A going to dominate, but Trevor is going to run all over Jack, because a strong person in a weak environment will lose to a weak person in a strong environment. So how does this relate to you? Right now, you are Trevor. You are Trevor. You are someone who doesn't have nearly the self-control as Jack, because maybe you can picture one of your friends who's always just been like a straight arrow. They've never really done anything bad with their life. They're naturally just successful. Like they're naturally like really good at girls. They naturally have really good discipline. They just, for whatever reason, just put on muscle very quickly. That's Jack. Right now, you're Trevor. And for example, you're not really consistent. You've been trying to overcome gooning, for example, or stop playing video games, or stop drinking or vaping. And you're able to do it for 2 or 3 weeks, but you can't go more than that. You just keep relapsing and going into these ruts. And you can't stay consistent with the gym, with your purpose, and all these things. You're currently Trevor. You're currently a bit of a loser, for example, or what we could say you're this weaker person compared to Jack, who's this stronger person. So the way in which you, as a bit of a loser, can beat Jack, who's a bit of a natural born winner, is you need to inject yourself into Team A. You need to inject yourself into a strong environment that will force you to level up, and that will inhibit your growth and allow you to improve to levels that you never thought were imaginable. And I'm going to give you some practical steps in order to do that. So if you want to beat Jack, or even if you are Jack and you want to just make sure that you don't become Trevor, like this is for everyone. Inject yourself into a better environment. We need to optimize and upgrade our environment to the level of the person we want to become. And that starts off by what I will call one of the most important factors, or one of the most important things when it comes to self-improvement, is subtraction. So when it comes to improving your life, lots of us think that we need to add things. We need to add these things, and we need to add a new habit. We need to add a new habit tracker. We need to add a new routine. We need to add a new mindset. We need to add a new whatever it is. We need to read a new book. But what no one tells you is the thing that is more important than adding all these things, because you can only add so many things until you have no more time left. The thing that's more important is subtraction. It's removing. Because when you make space and when you make time by removing all the shit that's no longer serving you, then you actually have time to dedicate to all these good habits. Maybe you can start reading books or start hanging out with these Team A players. Because here's the thing. Right now, you might be in Team B. You might have a bunch of mates who are a bit of a loser. You guys all you might have a bunch of mates who are, they're a bunch of losers. Like, you can admit this. And it's not rude to admit this. It's not rude to be honest. And maybe all you do together, and maybe one of the main reasons why you're friends is because all you do together and all you have in common is you go out and you get smashed. And you're not really mates with each other, but you're mates with the place you go to, or you're mates with the substance you do together. Or all you guys do is just play video games together, or things along these lines and this is just Team B. You're stuck in this environment, and they have this tall poppy syndrome where they want to see you succeed, but not more than them. They want to see you improve, but not more than them. And guess what? Because they're a bunch of losers, you succeeding, you just starting to wake up early and things along those lines is doing better than them. And they're not going to want you to start doing that. They're going to encourage you to stay on Team B. They don't want you to leave. They don't want you to find a Team A. Because here's why. You improving your life, or more so, them forcing you to stay as a loser, justifies them being a loser. It makes them feel better about being a loser. But the moment you start improving, then now they start feeling insecure about how they can't be consistent with the gym, how they can't get girls, how they can't make more money. But would you rather keep them happy with you, keep them feeling good about you because you're also a loser? Or would you rather do what's best for yourself and your future son and let them go? Because you will never be able to join Team A whilst you're still on Team B. You need to make space. Because think about this. Let's say on average you have 3 or 4 social interactions per week. you see 3 or 4 friends or group of friends per week, even if it's the same group every week, 3 or 4 times. If in all those 3 or 4 times you're seeing Team B, what time do you have to see Team A or to discover Team A? The only way you're going to discover Team A or to discover this stronger environment is if you remove the weaker environment, because what does that do? It creates space. So step 1 is you need to remove the crabs. And you've probably heard of this analogy before of the crabs in a bucket. So let's say there's a bucket and there's a bunch of crabs. These are crabs. And some of these crabs, they're climbing out of the bucket. But what happens, and this is you're climbing out of the bucket. This is you. You're this guy here. But your mate, Dave, or whatever, as soon as he sees you climbing out of the bucket, what's he going to do? He's also trying to climb out of the bucket. And then he's going to pull you and you're both going to fall down. And no matter how many times you try to climb out of the bucket, someone is going to pull you back down because they don't want you getting out of the bucket before them. They want to get out of the bucket first. But because you're all trying to get out of the bucket first, what's going to happen? None of you are going to get out of the bucket, and these crabs in the bucket are going to keep pulling you down as soon as they realize you're making progress. Why? Because of this thing called tall poppy syndrome, where anyone who stands out, anyone who's doing better, gets cut down. Think about a poppy field, or I think poppies, another word for poppies is like sunflowers. Think about this. You have this field of poppies. I've drawn that's too big of a poppy. Actually, no, that's wrong. Poppies are those little red the little red flowers that us Aussies and our New Zealand brothers, we wear on Anzac Day. So let's say we have these little red flowers, and then you have just one poppy that's a bit bigger than all the rest. Now, because that poppy stands out, when the gardener goes and cleans out or fixes up the garden, this poppy, because it stands out, it's a bit uneven, so it's going to get cut off. And this basically is what tall poppy syndrome or tall poppy mindset means. Is basically anyone who stands out, or anyone who's not average, or anyone who's not below average, gets cut down, gets forced to, revert back to baseline, essentially. And that's what this crab in the bucket analogy is. So this is a canon event in every man's life. And this is arguably one of the hardest canon events in every man's life, because there's 2 canon events. Or there's 2 canon events. There's lots of canon events, but there's 2 in particular that every man goes through. Heartbreak, your first breakup, which is losing a girl. The second one is also heartbreak, but it's losing your old boys, or the crabs in the bucket, who are convincing you to still be a loser. It's leaving Team A in search for Team B. These are 2 canon events, and they're very hard, and every man has to go through them. So here's how you remove the crabs. Easy steps is you just start spending less time with these guys. So let's say you see 4 people per week, or you have 4 social events or interactions per week. Going extreme, which I could recommend, is just see them for 0 amount of those times. But if you're a bit timid and you're a bit scared about it, and you're a bit of a coward, only see them once. You can think about it as the 80-20 principle, the 80-20 principle, where basically 80% of the results that you see in life come from 20% of the actions. You want to flip this and say, okay, I'm only going to see these losers. I'm going to stop seeing them 80% of the time. I'm only going to see them 20% of the time, which could look something like this. For every 5 interactions, one of them's a loser, or one of them's a Team B, 4 of them a Team A. Another way to say this, and this is what I tell my guys as well, is if you're slowly phasing out one group of friends because they're a bit of a loser, or because they're crabs, and you're in search of Team A or this stronger environment, don't see Team B until you've seen 4 Team A's. And that's not 4 Team A's in one go. That's 4 separate occasions where you're with Team A. And that's a quick little hack you can do. So do that. So that's physical. Now, most of our life these days is digital. So what you can do as well, or what I recommend, is for all these crabs, mute the group chat, or even better, leave the group chat. You can unfollow them or unblock them, or if that will cause too much turmoil and you don't want turmoil because for whatever reason, what you can do is you can just mute their profile on Instagram or whatever it is so that they don't pop up. So mute the group chats, mute the notifications, and just make space for discovering Team A. Now, once you've removed the crabs, the goal now is to find some Team A players. And what that means is find some winners, find some people who have the result that you're looking for, or who are also pursuing the result that you're looking for. So you want to find an environment of guys who, let's say you're trying to stop watching porn, or you're trying to stop doing drugs and going out every weekend, and you're trying to be more disciplined, like you're trying to be consistent with the gym. Find other guys who do that. It's very simple. Find other guys who have achieved that goal or who are actively working towards that goal. Why? Because now you have accountability, and now you're in Team A, where you will either get left behind, but you probably won't want to get left behind. So now you're forced to level up to that level. And you can also pick the brains. You learn off each other, and you're ambitious guys. Even if it's just one dude, even if you have just one mate like this, you are rich, you are wealthy. But if you have a whole group of this, or you have a community of this, you will win. You will beat Jack, even if you're Trevor. And even what I've seen some guys do is whenever they find someone, just even in the city, who's remotely on self-improvement and they're ambitious, you guys just don't drink, you don't do this, what they do is they find like one other guy, or it's just those two, and they move in together. Imagine waking up with another guy who meditates straight away. Obviously, you're in two separate rooms. You're not waking up with him. You're waking up in the same house. But you wake up and he's already meditated. He's already gone to the gym. He's already sitting down and he's working. You're not going to play video games. You're not going to scroll on your phone. You're not going to eat junk food. You're not going to. You're going to start doing what he does. Why? Because you're a product of your environment. There's this cliche quote, which is basically the moral of this video, is you become the average of the 5 people you hang around. If you're hanging around 5 people from Team B, you're going to become exactly like Team B. But if you're hanging around a bunch of winners, you're going to become a winner. If you're hanging around 5 disciplined people, you will be the 6th disciplined person. But if you're hanging around 5 junkies, you'll become the 6th junkie. So this first of all means you need to know what your dream life is, or what your dream goals are, what your goals are for your health, your wealth, and your relationships. Once you know what those are, go and seek out people who have them or who are actively working towards them, and remove people who don't have them or who don't really care about it, or who won't hold you accountable to it, or who won't lift you up to getting those goals. Because, for example, you might have the goal of you want to be an entrepreneur, but one of your mates has a goal of he wants to be a doctor. I'm not saying to cut your mate out because he doesn't want to be an entrepreneur, but you probably both have the same values of discipline, hard work, showing up, all these things. Now, the key thing here, and I actually had a chat with one of my mates on the weekend, and he was just opening up to me about some struggles he's been having with some addiction. He'd gone a bit quiet recently. I was like, hey, why hadn't you reached out with some of the boys and some of the guys we usually hang out with? And he said, he said something along the lines of, I'd feel like I wouldn't really belong. I was a bit of an imposter because I'd started doing these bad habits again, and you guys don't do these bad habits. So I felt like I didn't deserve to be there, and that I would bring the group down by doing these bad habits. And this is a common fear. This is a fear that we've all had, and I've had this before in many different areas of life, and it's called imposter syndrome. And it's basically the belief of I don't belong, or I'm not good enough to sit at this table. Easier said than done, but you need to start realizing that you are good enough to sit at any table. As long as you believe so. You are good enough to be on Team A, as long as you believe so. And as long as you, of course, work hard to doing it. Because here's the thing. If you are currently a loser, let's say you do smoke, or you vape, or you do currently watch porn, do you think that a bunch of Team A winners are going to hate you or going to knock you down because you do those things? No. Why? Because the people on Team A, they understand the struggle. You'll never be hated on someone who's doing better than you. And all these people in Team A, they're likely doing better than you, or they're achieving to do better in their life, which means they have the goal of doing better than themselves and you, which means they support your goals. They likely see themselves, their old self, in you. So a key thing in overcoming imposter syndrome is realizing that you'll never be hated on someone who does better, on someone who is better than you, because they no longer have an ego. They know what it takes to get to the other side, and they will likely respect you just for wanting to be in proximity with them. Because let's say you do smoke, let's say you smoke and you come up to me and say, hey, Christian, I want to hang out with you because you've said you've overcome porn, you've overcome vaping, and these are things I currently struggle with. And I know that if I hang out more with you, I spend more time with you and less time with my loser friends, it'll be more likely that I overcome this bad habit. Bang, cool. Dude, let's hang out every day. Let's hang out all the time. You come, I'll introduce you to my mates who don't do that. And yeah, cool, done. You can hang out. And that's what you need to realize. People who are on self-improvement, they're not going to hate you if you have bad habits. People who are ambitious aren't going to hate you if you are not ambitious. Or, well, the thing is, they will dislike you if you're not ambitious, but the fact that you want to hang out with them, or the fact that you want to quit these bad habits, shows that you are ambitious. You being undisciplined doesn't mean you're unambitious, because discipline is a skill. Ambition isn't a skill. Ambition is a trait. Ambition is a characteristic that you have. And you have ambition because you're watching this video. People who are unambitious, when they're on YouTube, they don't watch self-improvement videos like this. They don't watch videos titled, you are losing to someone with less self-control than you. People who are unambitious they're not even on YouTube. They're on TikTok scrolling all day watching brain rot. But you're not. You might do that sometimes, but every now and then you're watching a self-improvement video. You are ambitious, which means you are deserving and you're worthy of sitting at a table of winners. Because every team A has a 26th player, has a player that sits on the bench, has a player that's just the worst. Every team has a worst player. Even the best team in the world has a worst player. That doesn't mean that player sucks, but it's still the worst player. And sometimes we just need to kill our ego and be okay with being that 6th player, that worst player. And we need to make sure that team A is okay with us moving up to player number 3, player number 2, player number 1. Find a bunch of guys who want to see you win. Find a bunch of guys who have the outcome that you want, and they also want you to have the outcome that they have. Now, a final thing to do when it comes to optimizing your environment, because that's what we're talking about here, optimizing your environment, is you can also just look around your room. Does your room remind you of being a loser, or does your room remind you of being a winner? What's in your room? Does your town remind you of being a loser, or does it remind you of being a winner? Because what lots of guys do is they leave their town. They go somewhere else. They go to other places, other cities, other places around the world where there are winners, where there are people working on self-improvement. Now, you don't have to go that extreme because you can win in any town. And maybe it's not financially viable for you right now to do that. And maybe this is the city you want to raise your kids in because it's a nice city. Look around you right now. What can you do to optimize your environment? Is your room a mess? Clean it. Having a messy room reminds you of being a loser. Having a clean room reminds you of being a winner. Do you have anime posters all over your room? Because that's not reminding you of being a winner, is it? The last thing to optimize would be your phone. So as I said, you'd likely be removing the group chats or muting the group chats or deleting the apps where you are connected with these loser people. The last thing to do is optimize your social media. So your Instagram, your TikTok, your YouTube. And that will basically be to build an algorithm that is focused on self-improvement or focused on the result that you want to have. So what that would look like is you just spend 5 minutes on Instagram and you literally just click the 3 dots in the bottom. You just click literally the 3 dots in the bottom of any reel that pops up that is degenerate. A reel that pops up that's a thirst trap, you do 3 minutes doing this, thirst trap. Not interested, not interested. Do this on YouTube too. I used to have video games. I used to have videos that would be about certain video games that I used to play. And what I did is I just literally took 3 minutes, 2 minutes scrolling on YouTube, and every video was of this video game. Not interested, not interested, not interested. And then when I refreshed it, it never came up anymore. And then what do you start doing? You go through your feed, or you go through your followers, and you start unfollowing anyone who is a degenerate, or any influencer you follow who you're following them because of degeneracy or because of these bad habits you're trying to stop that you guys do together. And then you start following people who have the results that you want. So maybe you only start liking, or you only start commenting on, or you only start watching or even following people who maybe just go to the gym, or people who are business people or entrepreneurs or things along these lines, so that you're creating a feed that is reflective of the type of life you want to live. Because none of us guys, we don't really think about this, but we spend a lot of time on our phone. We spend a lot of time in our room. We spend a lot of time with our mates, and we want to optimize that. But another place we don't think about that we spend a lot of our time is on our phone. So we want to optimize our phone. So obviously, delete apps that you don't need, that are gaming apps or betting apps or things on these lines. But if you're spending a lot of time on Instagram and social media, which lots of us typically do, because first of all, we're lazy and we're scrolling on there. But second of all, it's also likely where we keep in contact with people. Create an Instagram that inspires you. Create a feed that inspires you. Create a feed where it's just like dudes at the gym, motivational posts, business stuff, fitness, whatever. Create a feed that is like that. And then when you're driving, when you're at the gym, maybe you only listen to self-improvement podcasts, or you're listening to a video course on a habit or a skill you're trying to develop. And you stop listening to this degenerate rap music that's telling you to go shoot up a bunch of blokes and then shoot up yourself with all these drugs and fuck 10,000 bitches. It's not helping you, man. It's really not. Because a strong person in a weak environment will lose to a weak person in a strong environment. If everything in your environment is reminding you to be a loser and to be a degenerate, what are you going to be? So we need to harness and create an environment around us that inspires us to be a winner. And most importantly, to inject ourselves into a teammate. And don't wait. Don't wait for someone else to decide that they want you on your team. You have to be proactive, because you're not going to get anything you want if you wait. Go after it. Go and be proactive. Go and seek out guys on self-improvement. Think about, where can I find guys who aren't losers? Maybe you know that there is a local outdoor gym near your house or in your city, and you know that you've seen on social media that a bunch of guys just go there every Sunday. Go. Don't wait for them to invite you. Don't ask for permission. Just go. Introduce yourself. Say, I want to get better at this. Go. Maybe one of the dudes you used to go to school with, or you used to play sport with, you can sense by what he's posting on social media or what he does that he has a slightly better mindset and he thinks somewhat similarly to you. Don't wait for him to reach out to you. Reach out to him. Don't wait. Be proactive and start thinking smart about this, and start thinking, okay, where can I find these guys? Even just literally after this video, put a timer on for half an hour and write down, where can I find Team A players? 30 minutes. Write this question down. This is your homework. This is your action step after this video. If you don't do this after this video, you haven't watched this video and you are being lazy. After this video, this is what you're going to do. Sit down half an hour. Where can I find Team A players? And you will probably come up with 20 things, both online. So think of both online and in person. So think of both, or in your city, or in your town, or in whatever. Because it would be great to have an online community, and it would be great to have people you see in person. For example, I live in Melbourne, and I chat to people from Sydney who are on self-improvement, or I might never really ever meet them. I would hope to. I'm not really going to Sydney anytime soon. I've only been to Sydney once in my life. But guess what? Me chatting to them, it's good for me, it's good for them. Even some of the guys I work with, not all of them are from Melbourne. And I've even worked from people who aren't from Australia. It's an online world. Find people all around who you can just chat to, connect with, become bros with. And then bonus, find people, and even just find places where you can find people in your city, even within an hour of driving from you or public transport from you, because that's worth it. Going 1 hour, even just once a week, to hang out with a dude who's on self-improvement is a much better investment than spending 4 days a week with a bunch of losers. It is. If we track these two people over the span of 5 years, who's going to get to their dream sooner? He definitely will. He'll go backwards. So your homework is to answer this question. Where can I find Team A players. Now, I do have a free community if you would like to join it, with a bunch of the guys I work with and a bunch of the guys who consume my content, such as you guys who are watching my YouTube and people who watch my Instagram and my TikTok, which is the same content on both platforms. But in there's a bunch of guys who are all on self-improvement, who are all working on overcoming their bad habits and building a life of purpose and discipline. So completely free. You can go join there right now. If you don't want to join that, there's a bunch of other free communities online just for guys. Mine's also just for guys that you can find people in who are team players, who are Team A players. Find them. Now, the last thing is I want to give you a really good real world example of this. And it's just a place I've seen online recently on Instagram. It's called Diamond Gym. You might have heard of it or even seen about it before. If not, just go on Instagram right now and search up Diamond Gym. Diamond Gym. I'm not sure. I don't think they have an account called Diamond Gym, but I'm sure if you search up Diamond Gym, you would find the two guys who tend to post about it a lot. I think his name is Smith the Don. I think it's SMTH and then the Don. And then I think the other guy's name is Hadi Abdul or something along those lines. But they have this gym. It's called Diamond Gym. And I want you to just picture, if you're someone who wanted to get jacked, imagine if you went to that gym. You have no other option. You're walking out of that gym jacked. And if you were forced to go there every day, bro, that environment there, that is a winning environment. So find the Diamond Gym equivalent environment for your goal. Find it. Or even don't just find it, create it. Be proactive. Create that environment. Create that Team A. Be the person who brings these people together. Because you might find a Team A player here, and a Team A player here, and a Team A player here, and a Team A player here. And none of these people know each other. What if you are the one that brings them all together? So now you have Team A, all united. Do it. Be the person who connects people. But yeah, search up this place on Instagram called Diamond Gym and just imagine if you were injected into that gym. Imagine the gains you would have. Imagine the man you would become. Imagine who would you become. Ask yourself, who would you become if you were injected into that environment? You would become unrecognizable. You'd basically be at the gym with 5 David Goggins. Go search up Diamond Gym on Instagram. It's awesome. It's motivating what they do and the way they speak to each other and the way they lift them up. Like these people, these are buff guys achieving goals. You know what they're doing? They're lifting each other up. I've even seen recently the owner of the gym, Smith. I think his name's Smith. I actually don't know his real name, but I think his Instagram is Smith the Don. Like he's been posting the values of the gym, of how they lift everyone up. Imagine if you had never been to the gym and you just got forced into this gym, or you're being consistent with the gym or whatever. Just imagine being forced into this gym. You're being surrounded by a bunch of guys who have the result that you want. They have the result that you want. And not only that, they want you to have the result that you want. They want you to have the result that they have. And not only that, they're pushing you to your limits to get the result that you want because they know what it takes. Because going back to the story I shared about my friend, this is exactly what I said to him over the weekend, where he said, I didn't want to hang out with the boys anymore because I didn't want to bring the boys down. And I said to him, there's 4 of us, 4 guys. And for the sake of this analogy, there's 4 Team A players. And him, Team B players. And he said, I didn't want to bring everyone down because I was down. Which is very considerate of him, but it is, at the end of the day, it is just an excuse. Now, answer this question. Do you think that one person can beat 4 of us? Because here's exactly what I said to him. I said, us 4, we are so certain in who we are, in our self-improvement, that we don't smoke, that we don't watch porn, that we don't do this and we don't do that. Do you think your doubts would beat 4 times this certainty that we are who we are and we don't do this? Do you really think one bad habit, one person with bad habits is going to beat the certainty or outrank the certainty of 4 people who have this identity of winners, of self-control? You have no chance. You have no chance. It would be quite the opposite. You would be forced to level up. We would force you to level up. And I even said to him, and he was even honest about this, he said, before leaving, Like, as soon as I arrived, he was going to have a smoke. And he said, I can't do that because I'm hanging out with Christian. And I said, yeah, you're bloody right. If you put out smokes right now, I'd smack it out of your hand. I wouldn't let you. I'd rip the packet up. I'd burn them all right there, throw them in the bin. I wouldn't let you do that. And this is what that diamond gym place is like. I've seen that when someone's doing a rep and they say, I can't do it, you know what they do? They end up having to run up this hill and do burpees. They're not even allowed to say certain words. They're not allowed to say can't. Imagine being in an environment where you're not allowed to even say you're a loser. That is Team A. You know, find and create an environment like that, where there is discipline, where there is tough love, where if you are falling behind, they're not going to let you fall behind. They aren't going to let you fall behind. They're going to pick you up and say, no, you don't do this. They will knock the cigarette out of your hand. They will slap you across the face when you start talking lustfully about a girl because you want to stop watching porn. You need guys who aren't going to accept the loser version of you. They're only going to accept the highest version of you, and they're going to hold you accountable to that because you will have no other choice but to level up. Now, as I said, if you want a place like that, I do have a free community. You can also have a look in the description. There'll be a link down there where you can access both free and paid resources if you would like. And also, if you would like to work with me one-on-one, there's a link down there that you can look at too if you just want one call or if you want to lock in a few more sessions over a period of time. So just remember that a strong person in a weak environment will lose to a weak person in a strong environment. So just find that strong environment and do that homework. Spend half an hour answering that question of where can I find Team A players, both online and in my city in person, and be the one who takes initiative and just don't wait for someone. Don't wait for someone to start a friendship with you. Start a friendship with them. Be the one who offers their hand to friendship. And I'll see you on the next video.